Previously on Drake Paragon.
There's a trimaran coming in under tow. Hey!
Skipper.
Good morning! How are you?
We could sustain a long passage with an average of 17 knots. You're trying to sail a tennis court. A storm, ice, whales, darkness, all those things at once. When you're going fast, you want something simple. This is what we were talking about before. This is the Florida room.
The Florida room.
This is my buddy Kenny.
Hi, Kenny.
Enjoying the Florida room.
The sunshine, the liquid sunshine is just so wonderful.
Yeah. Wow, yeah, what a rainy gray day it is today, but it's great that you can be out here without your foul weather gear on, stay out of the rain.
Yep.
So you have a Yanmar engine.
We do. 62 horsepower. She'll push us along at about 9 knots.
9 knots. Wow.
If I'm single-handed, I can completely run the boat from the cockpit. I can reef, and I don't have to leave the cockpit. My rule on this boat is in moderate to rough water, no one leaves the cockpit without a harness on.
Yep.
And no matter what the conditions are at night, no one leaves the cockpit without a harness on. Obviously there's a number of advantages, but one advantage, which I always explain to my crew, is unless I can trust my crew that they're going to do that, I can't go to sleep. I can't go off watch. Because I'm going to be worried about them. I will stay awake and listening to them move and talk and, you know, move about. But if they absolutely promise me that they'll stay harnessed in outside of the cockpit, then I can relax and I can go to sleep, especially if my kids are on board.
Yeah.
I think it's a good rule, and all my crew are just epic crew, highly experienced, great outdoorsmen.
What do you look for in crew, and how do you find your crew?
Well, that's interesting. I've been sailing all my life, and I had a racing career for 15 years. So I just contact old friends, a lot of them back in the Northeast. But I would say half of my crew on this leg are fellow Coloradans. And most of them, if not all of them, had never been sailing before. But I've been powder skiing with them, I've been backcountry skiing with them, running wilderness rivers with them.
Wow.
So I know their character, and I know how they operate in the wilderness. And they all bring their various skill sets. Some people are medically oriented, some people are engineers or just really good with their hands and mechanical stuff. So my perfect crew is a medical person, an engineer, and myself. But these crew that I have brought on that have never sailed before, I mean, they're quick studies. All I have to do is teach them how to sail, because they have all the wilderness skills already in place.
They know you.
They know me. They know how to respond. They know how to behave in really bad conditions. And every one of the folks from Colorado or the West, you know, Idaho. I've had a few friends from Idaho and come on board, and gosh, just, you know, as soon as they figure out how to sail, they just become epic crew. Epic.
Wow.
Always a huge help, a great resource.
Wow.
I haven't had a bad crew since we started this, or even a mediocre crew. I've had only just great crew and friends. Of course, my kids join me, and it's so great to be sailing with my kids. Watching all the skills that I know they picked up sailing with me all those years. And it's really fun.
You've got your navigation station with the chart plotter, and what is this?
This is the autopilot.
Oh, that's the autopilot made by NKE.
Yes.
Not heard of them.
French. It seems pretty durable. multi-hulls go through autopilots like greased lightning.
Really?
Yeah, they make autopilots work so hard because they're constantly, the boats are so fast that the autopilots are always playing catch up.
Yep.
So if there's any sea on at all, if a multi-hull will go off course, and of course it will every time you go surfing down a wave, the autopilot has to work really hard to bring it back, so it's constantly correcting itself. So fast multi-hulls wear out autopilots. On our first leg we had an autopilot system that had been on the boat for a while, and it was just a great autopilot system. Actually the same one. But in about, I don't know, 4,000 miles, we just completely toasted the thing.
Wow.
So we hand steered all the way from Panama. We kept repairing and jury-rigging it, and my buddy Rene put in 2 of the arms, the control arms and back, doubled the size, completely redundant, which I can just with a flick of a toggle switch go from one system to the other system in case it fails.
Of autopilot systems?
On autopilot system.
That's amazing. I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
Wow.
My sister, who's the rock star sailor in the family, she hates the autopilot. She loves sailing the boat, especially with the kite up. She loves the speed, she loves the surfing, she just scoffs at us whenever we turn on the autopilot. But I get tired, you know, after thousands and thousands of miles, I get tired and I have a hard time concentrating, you know, being out here for hours on end. And, you know, when you're setting up a watch system, you wind up being, in effect, either double-handed or single-handed. So you just, you know, you have to turn on the autopilot just so you can get things done. You can trim sails, you can make yourself some coffee, you know, do whatever. So I think the autopilots are pretty important.
I think that's amazing that you have this redundancy. You have 2 autopilots, and if one eventually fails, you can flip a switch and go to the backup autopilot.
2 toggle switches, that's all.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, when my buddy Rene, he's a rocket scientist, formerly with NASA. So when he decides to do something, put in a system or correct a system or build onto a system, he does it big and he does it great. Yeah, and that's just one of the examples of the things he's done here.
So this is your main sheet to the manual winch there, and then these lines are...
They're preventers.
Oh, wow.
You see, this is a carbon fiber beam that goes across. And we want to minimize how many screws and bolts we put into that carbon fiber beam. Avalanche has never had a track going across it.
I see.
And so what we do is we'll use the preventers, not only preventing a wild jibe, but we'll triangulate, and that's how we'll create the shape in the sail as most boats would do with a traveler. If this had a traveler, you know, it would have to be about 32 feet long.
And 1,000,000 screws.
1,000,000 screws, and yeah. So I can create a great sail, a perfect foil shape out of the main with just the preventer system.
Amazing. I've never seen that before.
You know, you probably noticed, having a monohull background, that the gear on this boat, the blocks and the winches and everything is lighter than you would expect on a 54-foot sailboat.
Yeah, definitely.
And the reason is because multi-hulls will not load up loads from forces. You know, a monohull will have a hull speed. So anything going beyond that hull speed, you're just loading up more and more and more load on the sails because the boat will only go so fast. So there's no way to release those loads. But a multi-hull will just go faster and faster and faster and faster and will release those loads. So the loads never build up or rarely build up. So you really don't need such large gear.
That's interesting.
And of course the boat is so light, it only weighs 17,000 pounds.
17,000 pounds for everything, all 3 hulls.
Yes.
Wow.
Right.
What do you have stored down here in that orange bag?
These are all our survival suits. We've got a total of 6, but since I usually have a total crew of 4, I keep 4 out here and another 2 down below. I hope never ever to have to open up those bags, climb into one of those things. You know, the nice thing about this boat and most multi-hulls is they won't sink. So I can't imagine stepping off this boat into our life raft. You know, if we hold the boat and she fills up with water, you know, we just become a swim raft. So you might want to put on a survival suit, but other than a fire, I can't imagine stepping off the boat into a life raft. I don't know what condition. Even if it was upside down, I think I would still stay with the boat. We've got lifelines that run on both sides, the underside of the hulls. So if it's upside down, we can, with our survival suits on and our Lyracus, our harnesses, we can clip into these lifelines.
Wow.
And
Stay with the boat.
we'll be miserable, but at least waves and conditions won't be throwing us off the boat. So even if you did crack the main hull, the Amas would keep you floating.
Yep.
And so in that respect, I find a lot of comfort from that.
You're not going to sink.
We're not going to sink. We may be miserable, but we're not going to sink.
And what do you keep in the cooler? There's
We like to
drinks.
we like to keep drinks out here. We find that if we keep drinks up in the reefer, they just bang around and they wreck our vegetables and so we keep everything out here and keep lots of ice in here. Ironically, since I've been in Greenland now, it's been I don't know, a month. I haven't been able to buy ice. Have you found any place to buy ice?
No. We've captured ice in the water and brought it onto the boat and crushed it up, and it tasted amazing.
No salt taste?
Not at all. It was the best tasting ice I've ever had, and we just pulled it up with a net.
We've been constantly talking about that, deciding whether we should do that or not, but quite honestly, if we keep drinks out here in the cockpit, this weather up here, they're always nicely chilled.
Nicely chilled, yeah.
You don't need much ice.
Right. And so you'd have a large life raft there, a Givens brand.
My buddy Renee and I did a lot of research online, and we decided that the Givens was the most bomb-proof life raft. It just shocks me when I think how much I paid for something that I hope to never use. It's a 6-man raft, and I don't usually take more than 4 people, so I think there'd be more than enough room. It'd be pretty uncomfortable, but there'd be more than enough room. And we've got a lot of supplies in there, and we've got a lot of grab bags that are already packed with food and flares and equipment to help us get rescued if it comes to that. But I pray to God I never take those straps off that thing.
And then you have an aft section.
Sure. You want to come down?
Yeah,
I'll give you a tour of that.
Sure.
We're leaving the Florida room.
Wow.
Got some lights on.
This is great.
This boat started off with 2 bunks, 2 single bunks back here. Very comfortable, very nice. But my great friends Renee and Sandy put in a little V addition in between them. So it kind of turns out, I don't know how big this is, maybe a queen size bed.
Yeah.
So it gets really comfortable back here. And this is the most comfortable bunk in the boat when we're offshore.
It is.
Yeah. I don't know exactly where the pivot point is when we're lunging over waves, but up in the bow, it's kind of like a trampoline.
Yeah.
When we're really going fast and we're flying off waves. I mean, you can get weightless, constantly.
Wow.
But back here, it's kind of a fulcrum like this, I think. Since the boat doesn't heel over, you're not going to fall out of your bunk.
Yep.
And it's quite comfortable. So this is probably the best spot to get some rest when you go off watch. What we'll do often is we'll just hot bunk it, meaning we'll be in here, everybody will stow their sleeping bags back here, so when one watch goes off, they'll come back here and get the best rest, which, as you know, is pretty important.
Yeah. I see that your chain plates are accessible and you can see them.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I was just discussing with my buddy Ken. His family built their own catamaran. We were discussing that we really enjoy simplicity and having everything as much as possible exposed, like the chain plates, and you can get at things that inevitably go wrong. I mean, a boat is always breaking itself. Actually, I'm breaking the poor thing, but it's so much easier to get at things when they're easy to find and easy to see, and you understand your boat a little bit better. Last night at dinner, we were talking to the Swedes, and you know, they built their own boat, and boy, I'm so envious of how well they know that boat.
Yeah.
You know, they built it from scratch. You know, a boat like this, I'm its fourth owner, and you have to learn everything that all 4 owners have added to the boat. All the little systems, all the wiring. I mean, they're all improvements. There's a lot to learn. I'm not really that much of a mechanic or an electrician, so there's a lot to learn on a boat. Somebody asked me last night if I would ever get another boat, and I just don't think so. No. Too much to learn.
Yeah.
I'm getting too tired of learning the workings of a brand new boat again. It seems like I learn all the systems by what happens when they break.
When they break.
And then I get down there and I inspect them, and I look at them and I try and figure out what the problem is. Sometimes it's over my head. Sometimes a crew will be on board that is a lot more mechanically inclined than I am, or every once in a while we'll bring on a mechanic, we'll hire a mechanic, and he'll do the work. But you know, I'm always either doing the work myself or I'm an assistant to the person doing the work. So that's really the best way for me, to sort of a hands-on way to learn all the systems and how everything works. You know, I can read all the manuals, but that only takes me so far. I'm the kind of person that really needs to get their hands on whatever it is.
And then when you hire somebody to work on your boat, you're there while they're doing it and learning.
Yeah, it's like they're my private instructor.
Yeah.
Sometimes I make these mechanics mental, but I mean, who wants to have the owner looking over your shoulder? But I explain to them I just want to learn, and it always works out great. We came in here injured about 50 miles north. We woke up intending to sail here to pick up our 4th crew member, and we woke up, we lifted anchor, and the transmission wouldn't go into gear, and we stopped everything, and I climbed down below, and I'm just inspecting everything, trying to figure out what it is that went wrong. I was wondering whether we wrapped a line around the prop or damaged the prop somehow. So I put on a dry suit and I went over and I dove on it a couple of times, and we finally figured out it had to be like the transmission or something there. So we jury-rigged the dinghy outboard motor off the transom of this boat. I'll show that to you in a minute. It's only a little 6 horsepower outboard motor designed for a little dinghy, a small dinghy. We hooked it up there, and you know, she powered us along at maybe 2 or 3 knots and was able to get us out of this really complicated and rocky cove that we were anchored in. And you know, in an emergency we can move her around quite a bit with the dinghy outboard hanging off the back. It looks pretty funny, but it got us here. It was a great emergency system. So we hired some mechanics here in this village. So he's down in the engine room, and I'm watching everything that he does, apologizing that I'm like looking over his shoulder, but he turned out to be a really, really great guy and extremely competent. And I was envisioning $5,000 repair, $10,000 repair, and you know, bless his heart, he found out that it was just a seized coupler bearing. So I only need brand new bearings, and we can rebuild this coupler bearing and grease it up. Of course, we have to order in the bearings from Europe, which we're waiting for. But now I know intimately how our drive system works, from the diesel through the transmission, through the coupler bearing, drive shaft, out to the prop. I mean, I'm an expert on it now, and I kind of like that.
You're always learning more about your boat. Here on the starboard side, in the aft section, you've got your aft head, the back head. How does this head work? It's different than...
Yeah, it's pressure. That pump doesn't pump the head out. The pump applies pressure, and it gets sucked out.
Wow.
As you know, all heads on boats are problematic.
Yeah.
They're a disgusting mess. And this one has its problems too, but I don't know if it's any more problematic than any other head.
Simple design.
Yep.
So there's a gasket here that
There is.
that seals it, and when you pump this, it builds up the pressure inside,
Yes.
and then
Sucks it out the
sucks
boat.
it out. Wow.
Spits it out. Both heads are like that.
I really like how everything is white and easy to clean. It has this wonderful airy feeling. You have a sort of showering setup
We can
here
shower
as well.
in here. Yeah. I never have, but we could.
Yeah.
We actually prefer, especially when we're in southern climates, to set up a sun shower
A sun shower.
outside and
Yep.
swim in the water, wash in the water, and then just rinse off
Wow.
with fresh water in the sun shower. That's my personal favorite.
Yep.
Of course, up here in the higher latitudes,
A little harder.
it's freezing. We'll shower in the forward head.
Yep.
Whenever we have to, but it's much better to come into a cove like this where you can go to a hotel and take a proper shower.
Yeah.
You know how it gets after a while.
Oh yeah. And then that's, it almost looks like it could work well as a navigation station, but and you've got some storage underneath there.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a locker then?
This is a locker. It's one of those lockers where we would just jam stuff in, as you can tell.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Wow.
It's loaded. Sleeping bags and whatnot.
What's that?
Well, Rene, in his wisdom, set up a heat exchange system on the diesel.
Ah.
And so this is our aft heater.
Hi.
So dry, warm air comes pumping out
Yep.
of it, and it keeps this, probably works best in the aft cabin, it keeps this cabin really dry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when we turn on the diesel to power up the batteries, to charge the batteries, if it's cold and wet, we'll turn on the heaters, and so also dry things out.
Must make this aft cabin even so much more comfortable offshore in rough weather.
Yes,
It's cold outside.
it's nice.
Hydronic engine-driven waste heat radiator. Fantastic. Thank you so much for this tour. It's an amazing boat.
Thank you.
It's got a great feel to it, and I just can't imagine the speeds.
When crew that have a monohull background,
Yeah.
I scare them at first. I think Janny, who is an epic sailor, I mean, she's a sailing instructor for Outward Bound and also Knowles program, and she said the first storm that we got into, rounding Hatteras, we started getting up speeds in the low to mid-20s, and she kept looking at her dad and myself, seeing whether we were concerned or excited about the speed, and I think all she really saw in our demeanor was, we were enjoying the speed.
Wow.
But no, we didn't feel in danger at all. It can handle the speed.
Next on Drake Paragon.